Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the official Do Good Better podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Kirby. And of course, we talk with people who are going to help our small and medium-sized nonprofits do good better. One of the things that I know that all of you could do better is your communication, your marketing, your digital strategy. I know it is overwhelming and confusing. The algorithm changes every 12 damn seconds, and I know that you can't keep up with it. And you shouldn't. You know why? Because you have people to help, you have organizations to run, you've got donors to chat with, and you don't have necessarily the time to figure all those things out yourself. So, of course, we're going to bring in experts who are going to help you navigate all the confusing things that have to do with digital marketing and communication strategies. Well, that's what today is all about. I would like to welcome Adora Drake, who is from High Spirits Marketing. Adora, welcome to the official Do Good Better podcast.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
I'm so glad that you can be here in order to straighten our faces out on all the confusing things that is and always will be digital marketing and communications. But first, before we get started, we want to make sure that we know each other a little bit better. Our audience wants to know, they might not know what High Spirits Marketing is. They might not even have heard of Adora Drake. How dare they? But they will soon enough. So why don't we start with a 5,000-foot view, who you are, what you do, and why we're talking today.
Well, I am an expert marketing consultant. I work specifically with nonprofits. I have some for-profit companies that I work with as well, but mostly nonprofits. I actually have a marketing background, and I kind of accidentally fell into nonprofit marketing because I had a nonprofit from Boston reached out, and they had no strategy, guys. So they were still knocking on doors, asking for donations. And so I had to help them get off the ground and get on digital. And so I kind of fell into that. Got really passionate about it, and more nonprofits started coming my way. So that's kind of how I got started.
I love it. Well, this is why I'm so appreciative of you here. We're niche nonprofits, small, medium size. I would love to kind of start with maybe your thoughts, because we're kind of in a new year. Everybody gets to push a reset button on their game plan. So let's talk a little bit about kind of what you saw from a trend standpoint in 2022. What shocked you, what amazed you, what disappointed you, what excited you? Kind of an overview, nothing too crazy, but what was 22 like from a digital marketing communications topic?
Yeah, so there were so many trends, and a lot of it comes from video. So I know early on, a couple of years ago, long form videos were the thing. 5 minutes, 2 minutes. Now it's like the quicker videos are the best. And so I'm seeing that. I saw that all throughout 2022, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be this way in 2023 as well. Just making for sure that you get out there something quick and easy that someone can digest within that a couple of seconds, anything under 60 seconds. And I'm seeing that that's really hot right now on all platforms, including Instagram and LinkedIn and all the other ones. They're kind of all falling for the TikTok kind of trend.
Yeah, the attention span of gnats has even shortened.
Like literally
crazier there. So if in a 60-second clip, as you're kind of seeing some of these things, because I think that's really what the practical piece of advice here, just to kind of kick things off, is let's concentrate on video, let's concentrate on YouTube shorts, let's concentrate on some of these places where I think people really would be benefited by investing some time, energy, and effort. But what are the calls to action that you want to see at the end of something like this, right? We don't want to create content in a vacuum. You got to ask them for something, whether it's a follow, a like, or a money or whatever. Is there like a best practice as you have seen it to end some of these videos or begin these videos with what the person watching it is to do?
Yeah, so you definitely want to have a really good call to action towards the end of the video. And it can be, hey, go to our website, or here's our registration link. So you can actually add the link to most of those stories and things like that. Or you can have them, which I recommend, have them go to your email list. So what will happen is they'll go to your landing page, they'll download something or watch something in exchange for their email. And then you'll have them on your email list, and you can actually keep communicating with them. So I recommend the third one, but you can do it for all of those. You can do it for the landing page and also registrations and things like that. I wouldn't use that for donations yet, though. I kind of want to warm them up first.
I love that as a piece of advice, right? We don't want to ask it cold. I mean, that's boring and terrible, and everyone's going to say no, and you're only going to get random gifts, and that's not
right.
We want to make friends first, right? We want to be
exactly
with them. So talk a little bit about kind of I think the concept of creating a downloadable or creating something to give somebody, it's overwhelming. Now, I bet people think, like, yeah, I have a downloadable book. All right, well, now I need 50 pages of great content and that kind of thing. That's not the case at all, because A, people don't have the time to digest any of that. But how would you address a small nonprofit? Like, I don't even know what to put in a document, and I wouldn't even know what sort of thing to give people would be interested in. Debunk this for us, because I think that's a block that I think a lot of these nonprofits have on creating things for their audience or potential audience too.
You're absolutely right, Patrick. I know a good 10 years ago, it was, hey, you need to have a book or something like that. But now it's gotten a lot easier, guys. So you can actually have something really simple, like a quick little video just explaining what you guys do or who you help. You guys can make a quick little checklist of things that you guys or goals that people can kind of use to kind of outline, what you guys are going to be doing throughout the year. You guys can have just a little information, maybe 1 or 2 pages, just talking about some of the goals that you guys reached the year before. So it doesn't have to be tricky stuff. All you want to make for sure that you have is value inside of whatever you're sharing. So if I'm giving you my email, what am I getting back from you guys in exchange that's going to help me understand you, help me understand why I should volunteer or donate or whatever the case may be. So as long as it's educational or it has some kind of value, you guys are good. Don't worry about making it too complex. It can only be 1 page or 2 page, or like I said, a short, really short video, just explaining who you guys are.
Right. That's brilliant. So I will tease this out for the end of our podcast, but you have something that you'll be providing, which is a marketing checklist for nonprofit organizations. That doesn't have to be 28 pages long. In fact, I know it's not. But it's enticing enough to be interested in, because it's tangible and doable and actually very on brand, very on point. Like, that doesn't take a great deal of brain power to create, because you're talking about this stuff all the time at your
Exactly.
nonprofit.
Exactly.
And think about, if you're a food scarcity organization, you're thinking about like the top 5 foods that normally don't get donated that you could really use at a food pantry. What a great piece of content that by heart, that you put in a little listicle and you put a logo on it and you've got to download. I mean, that's wonderful stuff to create.
Absolutely.
I feel like you and I should get fees from everybody listening to this, because that's a great,
so many nuggets.
so many nuggets already. Okay, so Adora, I'm a small nonprofit and I'm really excited about listening to you. You've got a great vibe, and I know you're going to help me with all of the digital marketing stuff, but it's so overwhelming. I don't even know where to start. And I think where maybe we want to talk a little bit about, or at least start with, is like where to start. Starting the start. How do we wrap our brains around the entirety of digital social media, digital marketing, digital communications? If we have nothing, where do we start? Where do we begin?
You want to start with your marketing strategy. I know that sounds like a big word, but really it's just sitting down with yourself or your team, and then just discussing on what are my goals, why do I want to use social media, why do I want to use a digital marketing strategy, and what can I expect to get out of it, right? So that's where you want to start. And then next you want to talk about, how do I make this plan happen? So where can I be? What times do we need to be scheduling? Who do we need to be trying to find and reach on social media? So you have to really understand what your mission is and who your audience is. Right. Because if you don't understand who the audience is, I mean, none of this is going to work. So if you know who your audience is, understand where they are, which social media platform is going to fit that particular audience, and then you want to work on that particular platform, because they're all the platforms are different. They all have different reaches. And so if you understand who your particular audience is, you'll know which platform to start, and then you can kind of build from there.
What sort of questions do you ask yourself as an organization on who my audience is? I mean, that's sort of those it's chicken egg kind of bit here, right? Yeah. But like, what sort of questions do you need to be self-aware of on who is a supporter of your organization?
Well, you can actually look right into your organization right now and say, who are our volunteers, right? You can look back and say who donated. And you can kind of make a persona, which is just building out that person. where are they from? What kind of income do they have? Are they male or female mainly? What do they like looking at? What are their interests and why did they even, sign up and want to be a part of our organization in the first place? Then you can kind of use that persona to kind of look for that person again. So basically you're looking for that same person that's already, involved in your organization, and you're going to duplicate that over and over and over again.
Yeah, find your biggest cheerleaders in your database, whether it's a
Exactly.
spreadsheet or a cocktail napkin, wherever you write them down, right? I mean, it doesn't
Exactly.
matter. But like who loves you more than anybody else? And
Exactly.
I bet there's a theme or a value system that
Yep.
is the thread that ties all of those folks together. And if they
Yes.
sit on Facebook, go to Facebook. You don't
Right.
need to develop a TikTok account for the 65-year-old volunteer ladies who come in and help you do food distribution or knitting or whatever the
So
heck,
true.
right?
It's so
Don't go to,
true.
they're not on TikTok. Don't waste it. So I love that because you now get to narrow down the tons of options you have to post
Exactly.
into where they are.
Exactly.
And I guarantee you, as a nonprofit organization, I bet you see this all the time, where your potential clients or the people who reach out to you are scatterbrained everywhere and they're trying to do everything to everybody, where they haven't concentrated a lot or enough on building deeper relationships and communications with the ones who love them the most.
Right. Yes, I see a lot of nonprofits drop the ball there, and a lot of it is communications, right? So just really making for sure that you're communicating with those that you already have. And then when you go outside into the world, it's a lot easier to communicate because you've already been doing it with
Right.
people who are already in your organization.
So we've got a game plan. We know who we are, right? We've filled this out. We have an understanding of Dolores, age 55, mother of 3, and she's got some volunteer time, probably maybe husband works or whatever. You've got the persona. Okay, we know that is, and we know we want to talk with them more on the platforms in which she is on. Let's just hypothetically, for all argument's sake, 55-year-old female Dolores, Facebook. We know her on Facebook, right? So the amount of times we communicate with people is sort of a sticky situation, an arduous thing where we've only a finite amount of time to create and post. Is there a rhythm or a cadence that you would suggest to a small nonprofit that just figured out that they have the specific person that's not overwhelming to the individual who's running the organization and not, in our brains, annoying to the outside world?
Yes. So if you guys are just getting started, I would suggest that you create a calendar that's really consistent. So don't be sporadic. Hey, I'm going to post on Tuesday this week, and then next week I might post on Friday. You want to make for sure that you have some kind of consistency week to week. So if I'm going to post on Tuesdays, I'm always going to post on Tuesdays, right? So that way Dolores always knows information that she needs every Tuesday. And then also, as you continue to start posting, and the more you post, you'll start seeing the analytics. So the analytics will let you know what time. So what times can you reach Dolores, right? So then you can kind of strategize. Okay, well, Dolores, she mainly checks or those like Dolores, they mainly check their their Facebook around 12 during lunchtime, and maybe because they work full time. So maybe I need to post more around 12. So it'll give you more ideas. But as you get started, though, I would just pick 1 or 2 days during the week that you're going to do every single week, no matter what. So it'll be like clockwork. That way your audience can expect you to be there every week, and you can start having that consistency.
This comes back to the creative question where we don't have a lot of time to design or write or stuff. Do we need to write the War and Peace novel? And do we need to go and assign out a designer to work 5 hours on an actual picture that has to do with those social media things? Because I think in our brains, we think this has to be the most elaborate, wonderful, well-versed, well-structured thing we've ever done in our entire life. Otherwise, we can't do it. Otherwise, oh, I'm afraid someone will find this to be offensive. Is that the case?
No. So that is some very old advice. You guys can throw that out the window. So now when it comes to posting, it can be very simple. So it can be a picture of your events. It can be a picture of your, top volunteers. You can really get creative here. like I said earlier, a lot of the platforms are really pushing video. So if you guys have some short video behind the scenes or something you guys are working on, just throw that on up there. And when it comes to captions, you want to be very clear about what the picture is saying and why they should look at it, or why they should click, right? So making for sure that it's a short little caption, talks about the specifics of what you guys are sharing, and then also have that CTA at the end where it takes them back again to either your downloadable or your registration page, or so on and so on. So this is some really simple stuff. You could probably knock this out in, like, knock out a month's worth really in like 2 hours. I mean, I've done that before. If you just sit down and just do it.
I think it's music to somebody's ear to say it's simple. Well, again, short but consistent.
Exactly.
I think that's such a wonderful note that allows an organization of any size to actually be in this space and
Exactly.
really build. Is this a short-term solution? Can I just start posting 3 or 4 times and expect us to get 12,000 followers per day or 5 new members? Why do I only get 4 or 5 new likes and 1 or 2 new assignments per week when I should be getting 12,000? I have a reasonable expectation that everyone should like what I do.
Okay, Patrick, that's 2 parts to that question, right? So the first part is you have to test and understand your audience again on social media. So making for sure that you're posting at the right times and things like that, and making sure it's optimal. That's the first part. The second part is going to be just making for sure that when it comes down to the consistency and things like that, you're going on the platforms and engaging. So people forget that it is called social media because you have to be social. So you actually have to go back in, make for sure you read your comments, making for sure that you're going to your followers and saying something nice to them. Hey, thank you guys for following. Can I send you some information? You're really you're building relationships on social media, and that's what it is. And so those accounts that actually work on building relationships and not just posting, you'll see more followers for those accounts, and you'll see more engagement. So if they post something, you'll actually see comments and shares and things like that. And that's because they've taken the extra 10 to 15 minutes to actually go back in and engage.
Right. And again, this is such a different from vanity metrics to actual engagement, which matters, right?
Yes. Yes.
You could get 1,000 views, 2 likes, and 0 comments. You might think, 1,000 views is really, really good. Or you get 50 views, 20 comments, and all of a sudden that is a more engaging post.
Exactly.
Meaningful post because you have honed in on 20 individuals that took the time. And again, everybody's got the attention span of gnats. We already know
literally.
And they have taken the time to comment on you or pause their scroll and like and type. And I know it seems like a small thing, but that's a lot of work in this total like crazy, we're always inundated with visuals kind of piece. So never look at your, never compare apples to apples to your oranges. What are you doing to consistently grow? And it takes a little bit of patience. I think that's another thing where we think if we invest 2 weeks worth of time into putting in this effort, that if we don't get this growth, we just abandon ship.
Right.
What are you seeing as the length of time that people are look back, which they don't even do either, look back and go, wow, I started from here and now I'm here. And I know that might not be 12,000% growth, but it's 150% growth. And my God, we've never had that before.
Right.
Perspective is something that I think we need to tell ourselves and never compare, ourselves to other groups who are not comparable, right?
Yes. Exactly. And what I've seen is, there are certain accounts that grow faster, more people relate to it. And then if you have a account that's really niche though, but you have a really niche audience, it might grow slower, right? Because there's not as many people who know about that particular niche. So you have to have that in mind. But as far as account growth, I mean, as long as you have the consistency, you can definitely expect to have growth. Definitely within 1 or 2 months, you start seeing more and more people. And if you are doing the engagement, that's going to help it grow even further. So just making for sure that you don't just post and leave, which I see a lot of nonprofits drop the ball there. It's like, oh, I posted, nobody said anything. Well, you have to go back and, over and over and over and build those relationships. And I see that those accounts grow way faster.
Right. What is some of the what are some of the things that maybe a lot of people are doing that should stop? Right. You talked a little bit about like old school mentality, which is like carefully crafted and curated photos and videos that have clearly been dumped thousands of dollars in, to more raw, open, authentic things and in the moment ideas, which are really, I think, more engaging anyway. But is there
Yeah.
any other things that you're watching that you're like, ugh, stop it, stop it? Because I think, it's almost addition by subtraction. What are we doing and
Mhm.
wasting our time on that you're seeing that's really not something we should be doing much longer?
Well, I see mainly the problem I see when, especially when it comes specifically to social media, is I'm seeing that nonprofits just kind of throw something up there and they don't really have a good caption that goes along with it. They're not using any hashtags and they're just expecting some growth there, and they're not actually working on social media to do it. So if you have at least a little bit of dedicated time to go in and actually engage and build your social media, you'll have better results and you won't be, kind of wondering what's going on there. Why are we not growing? A lot of it has to do with the back end and having, actual content that people want to engage with. So not just throwing a picture of a dog, or throwing some stock images up, which I see, throw up real images of,
Yeah,
your events, or something around the office, or jump on a really quick video and talk about what you're working on this week.
I love that. What is something new for 2023 that we should be paying attention to, or at least cognizant of as we move forward with the creation or the rollout of social media stuff? I've always thought, I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And they're like, yeah, that came up like a year ago. And I'm like, I'm so old, I have no idea what the hell is going on. What should we be on the lookout for? And at least read up on or be
Mhm.
aware of, so that we're not blindsided like I am on super cool technology that's on the way, or places and platforms to go and post.
Yeah, so once you discover where your audience kind of hangs out at, I would spend some time researching that particular platform, because there are so many features that have been added to each one of them. Each of them are kind of competing with one another, especially with this TikTok thing.
Mhm.
People are really trying to make for sure that, they reach a higher audience. And so
Yeah,
if you can take the time to kind of hone in on that, hey, which platform I'm going to get on, maybe it's Instagram, then maybe you should kind of look into which hashtags work best, or which reels work best. So kind of look at your competitors, see what they're doing. And if they're not doing much, go and look at some of the top influencers kind of in your niche, and kind of see what kind of videos are they creating, or what are they saying, and what's kind of working for them, or how are they getting comments, or what kind of comments are they getting. So kind of doing that research process is going to really help you long term, especially figure out what 2023 is going to be like.
right. Is there a place, or sort of, how do we figure out what is trending? Like I think talking about like, hey, figure out what's trending. That's great.
Yeah.
Where do I start? I don't know where to go. Is there a place, or a link, or some sort of venue in which I can figure out in my niche too? I mean, if we're walking with like kids with developmental disabilities and delay, like
Mhm.
what about that is trending that we can figure out, so that we can hashtag correctly, we can do the appropriate videos, we can talk about
Mhm.
what others are talking about, and almost piggyback off of the conversation there as well, because that helps all sorts of things.
Yeah, so unfortunately, there's not like a one-stop shop, like, "Hey, I'm gonna give you the information place."
Yes,
Somebody should make that, though, they would be very
there's a
rich.
million dollar
Uh,
idea. This is also $1 million idea. Dora,
right.
we're coming up with a million of them today. Holy buckets.
So you have to have your own research process. Where I would start would be my competitors. So I always would which what we do in marketing, we kind of look at a SWOT analysis. So we would look at our competitors and kind of see, what are they doing? And then from there, you kind of piggyback off of that. So you'll say, what kind of landing pages, what's working for them, right? You'll say on their social media, what kind of posts are getting the most views there? So maybe we should try those type of posts. And then you'll look and say, okay, what kind of hashtags are they using? Are they using, hashtags related to a specific event? Are they using a hashtag? Are they making their own hashtags? So you'll look and see, okay, well, if that's working for them, let's give that a try. So it's a little bit of trial and error. And then you want to make for sure, like whatever your niche is, that you're also following the industry news for that niche. So I'm sure there's some newsletters and things like that you guys can sign up for, and kind of stay up to date on what's going on, particularly in your niche, and kind of go from there. That way, you know what to talk about, what you can share with your audience, what may be interesting to them. So it's just a little bit of a research process there, but nothing too hard.
How do you piggyback a social media or digital marketing campaign with old school classic, let's get together over coffee bits, right? Because I think in a vacuum, we think that, well, I got to do one or the other, where
Mhm.
a complete marketing plan or a complete communication plan, right? It's not even
Mhm.
marketing, it's communication, involves everything on board. How do we
Mhm.
take these cool ideas and apply it to picking up the phone and making
Yeah.
that work and not confusing, or
Mhm.
even worse, they're fighting against each other in a small nonprofit, which you're like, I don't even know where to begin conversation.
Yeah, you definitely should have a mix of your marketing. So, like you said, those in-person events along with the digital. And what you want to do is you want to kind of marry those up. So if you're having like I said, like a donation lunch or fundraising lunch or something like that, you want to actually be posting about those things. You'll want to kind of talk about behind the scenes. You'll have the CTA lead them into the registration page, right? And then once they get to the event, you'll have like some follow-up, right? So they'll come, you'll have like a follow-up email, which they should be on your email list at this point. If they're not, you should have that in place. And
Yes.
then after the event, you'll have like some follow-up. So how was the event? Did you enjoy the event? Is there anything we can change about the event? And so on and so on. So it's a matter of marrying your communications from digital onto out there in person.
And I think this is where you as an organization have an
Mhm.
opportunity to touch base with those who maybe attend an event or
Mhm.
those who have given to you on a certain day.
Yep.
Yeah, you get to continue the conversation going forward, because the worst case
Mhm.
scenario that you can have is that you got a gift, or they did a call to action, you
Yeah.
said thank you initially, and the only time they hear from you again is the very next year in which you're trying to ask them for the same thing. And you've got
Exactly.
this gap, and you've got this giant gap. And so this allows you to really build a thoughtful and purposeful communication plan that doesn't necessarily
Mhm.
ask them for money, but it
Right.
asks them to just listen to where their gift has made an impact. It
Exactly.
reminds them that you are thinking about them, that you're
Mhm.
associating their action with a benefit that they help with the community, and that you can
Right.
do that through social media. You can do this through some of those, in addition to old school in-person kind of things.
Exactly, exactly. So it's really like you said, making both of those work together, and then making those like even if someone just walks up into an event, that you can get their information, nurture them, and then they'll also want to be a volunteer or something like that, or actually donate. We want them to donate into the organization. So it's just building relationships both ways. Even in your in-person meetings, I would say, hey, won't you guys, follow us on Facebook, right? We'll share information there about our next event and things like that. So keeping them up to date and communicating with them is just super vital.
I'm sure you're in a board meeting and all of a sudden you're mentioning the fact to all your board members of like, hey, we'd like you to follow and share this particular information. They will look at you like you have 58 heads. How do we make it very easy and almost dumbed down to the point in which I can do it, where
Yeah.
you allow them to help you in your social media without having their heads explode on what to do? Is there a way to create not from whole cloth, or let them create from whole cloth, because they're not going to do it anyway? What would you suggest we provide our board members that are aloof on how they can help us without overwhelming them?
You should give them an easy way to share, right? So that as long as you guys give them, a link, or you guys can give them something like a small little flyer with the information, give them something really simple. That way, wherever they are, a networking event or wherever, they could just share this information with someone super easy, through email or whatnot. And it'll take them either straight to the social media page, or it'll take them to the video introduction where it's kind of talking about the organization, and then they can again exchange their email for that information. So make it really simple for them. It doesn't have to be hard.
Right.
I would personally create like a small link to our socials, and that way they can go straight to the link.
Right. And again, give them all the detailed instructions and give them
Mhm.
very clear asks. Never
Exactly.
assume they understand what the hell you're talking about, because they don't.
So true.
Right. And I think even if you think, I'm like, well, this sounds like I'm talking to my 5-year-old about how to do it.
Just
Good.
never know.
You never know, right? And again, be very clear with what you're asking. I would like you to post on Tuesday this,
Yes.
write this,
Yes.
share this. What's sharing?
Mhm.
Click here to share this. Like, it's
Right.
the devil is in the details, and they won't do
Mhm.
it if they don't feel comfortable. And I think, and how maybe important is it to maybe even to spend 10 minutes with your leadership team, C-suite, or even like very
Oh,
good
yeah.
volunteers and lever how do you do this, and sit down and maybe a video or even together in a room, like this is what Facebook is, and then
Yeah.
you click, this is a share button, and this is what it looks like, just
Mhm.
to make them as comfortable as possible so they don't feel like they get stunted immediately looking at the stuff, and they get scared and they turn it off and they don't do what you need them to do in the first place.
Exactly, exactly. And one of my advices that I would give an organization is to say, have one or two people kind of manage the social media. That way, it won't get too confusing, and no balls won't be dropped and things like that. So you'll know exactly who manages what. And then if you can get to the place where you actually have a calendar where things are going to go out, then it's a lot easier to communicate to the board on when they need to share or what they should share, because you already have it outlined. So that's a part of that plan that we were talking about earlier, though, making for sure that that's a part of the strategy plan as well.
Right. I think, one of the things that I'm really excited about that we're going to talk even after this podcast is our guest expert training continues at Do Good University. Oh, what's that? You haven't figured out what Do Good University? Click in the links in the show notes and get into this whole thing. We're going to give all of the expert training, and specifically Adora is going to talk about, not only converting online audiences into donors and volunteers, but providing us an actual downloadable checklist for nonprofit organizations. Again, this is exclusive to our Do Good University crew. So if you're interested, click below. You are. And while you're in there, you're going to want to figure out how to get in front of Adora too, because she's probably got some great advice, but we want to know where to go to find you, to ask you all these super cool questions. So Adora, where do we find you on the interwebs, and how do we get a hold of you to ask these awesome questions?
Okay, I am literally all over the internet. But if you want to go to my website, feel free to go to my website. It's adoradrakemarketing.com. Again, that's adoradrakemarketing.com. But you can find me on all of the social media platforms under Adora Drake.
I love it. Adora, thank you so much for a couple of things. Number one, simplifying and dumbing down this overwhelming experience that is digital marketing and communications. I think a lot of the small, medium-sized nonprofits don't know where to begin, and you just did such
Yeah.
a marvelous job just kind of explaining on how to get your head right. Number two, thank you for working with small, medium-sized nonprofits, because we need the most amount of help doing all of these things. I can't wait to see you after the podcast in Do Good U, talking a little bit about how to make your conversions turn into donors and volunteers. Again, I know everyone listening wants to join, so go and click below. And after this podcast, again, click and go find Adora on social media. Go like what she's doing, follow all the amazing stuff that she's got out there, because it's super important that you wrap your head around this stuff to make sure that you are able to fundraise awesomer at your awesome organization. But mostly, Adora, thank you so much for being a guest today here on the
Thank
official
you.
Do Good Better podcast.
Thank you, guys. Happy to be here.
You're the best.